Hello everybody, Stanley Jones here. I want to talk briefly about lies, statistics, and COVID-19. There's two popular sayings that are sort of contradictory. Um, One is there are three types of lies. Lies, darn lies, and statistics. And the other is numbers don't lie. Both of these sayings have merit, and they're not mutually exclusive. The reason is that numbers don't lie. So statistics, when based on real numbers and interpreted properly, are actually quite helpful and meaningful. When we say that statistics are lies, it can either be because the numbers are fake, because the numbers are misinterpreted, or portray something that they don't really stand for. Um, Quick example, if you say that 1 out of 10 people surveyed believe this, whatever that is, what does it mean really? Well, it depends on who the people sampled are. If you say that 1 out of 10 people surveyed at a Tim Hortons restaurant prefer, this type of coffee, it means something different than if you say that 1 out of 10 people in a high-end coffee bar prefer that type of coffee. If you're doing your survey by phone and you're using landline phone numbers, you are going to have a different demographic than if you use cell phones. So the demographic really is important depending on what the survey is trying to capture. There is also purely made up numbers. There is, some people say 51% of all statistics are made up. And the exact number there is somewhat meaningless. The point is that depending on your source for the statistics, they may be entirely made up. If you're getting your statistics from some YouTube channel that has no reference, no background, no history, that you don't know who they are, then any statistics they quote are suspect. If you are following one of the mainstream media companies, they do have a reputation to uphold to some extent. They tend not to use made-up statistics. They can, however, be misinterpreting those statistics or skewing the results. As I said, with the demographic, for example, if they use one demographic and then try to use the conclusion or the statistics gathered from that demographic to apply to a different demographic or a larger demographic, that can be misleading. But really, the numbers themselves, when properly interpreted, will be revealing to whatever it is you're trying to figure out. And that is why scientists tend to use statistics a lot. It is very indicative when properly used. So how do we apply that to COVID-19? Well, there's a lot of people, I've heard things, people say like, masks don't work. No, masks work. Masks aren't overly effective. But any reduction in transmission is good. How useful they are is a different topic. It is saying that, okay, masks aren't great at reducing transmission, but they are better than nothing. Is it worth the effort? And what a lot of experts have said at different points in this whole COVID situation is that mask mandates don't work. Not that masks don't work, mask mandates don't work. That is because they are hard to enforce. People don't like following them. People use masks inappropriately. People don't put them on properly. There's lots of issues with mask mandates. But if the transmission is too serious and you need any reduction, then mask is better than nothing. If you can get people to stay home, then they aren't going to transmit anything at all because they're not going out anywhere. But if you can't get people to stay home and you get them to wear a mask, it's better than them going out and not wearing a mask. there's a lot of talk of, oh, well, an N95 mask would be more effective, so why don't they mandate that? Yes, N95 masks are more effective than cloth masks or most masks, but they have to be worn properly to get that benefit. If you're wearing an N95 and it's not properly sealed to your face, you're not really getting the full advantage of an N95. So the question is, how do you enforce proper wearing of masks? It becomes very difficult. So if you're not going to say, you have to wear an N95 and it's got to be properly fitted, is there really any point saying it has to be N95? A simple cloth mask will give you some reduction in transmission. So maybe some reduction in transmission is better than nothing, and that's all we can really force. You can't get people to do things they really don't want to. Wearing a mask is counter to our culture in North America. In some countries, some Asian countries, wearing a mask is quite common. I was in Japan many years ago, just for a short stay, but while visiting there, it was not unusual to see people wearing masks. People over there tend to wear masks when they feel a cold coming on or flu coming on. It is a great idea. It does reduce transmission of colds and flus. Will we get to that in North America? I don't know. It's against our culture. Is it a good idea? Yes. But it does have some drawbacks. It's not fun wearing a mask. You don't see people's face. You don't see their reaction. Which is better? Well, it's not cut and dry. Generally speaking, in a sparsely populated area, wearing a mask to try and stop cold and flu is really not worth the effort. In densely populated areas, then wearing a mask to try and stop cold and flu might be worth it. So it's really a question of what levels you're willing to accept and how densely populated the area is and so on and so forth. It's not something that is easily decided, with over one cup of coffee, shall we say. But we do know that masks work. In the countries where they use masks to slow the spread of flus and colds, it works. If it works to stop the spread of flus and colds, it will work to, not stop, to slow the spread of flus and colds. It will work to slow the spread of COVID-19. As a matter of fact, if we look at last year, cold and flus were down significantly in North America because many people were wearing masks. Mask is more effective against cold and flu than against COVID-19. Not to say it's not effective against COVID-19, but COVID-19 is more contagious than the cold and flu. Therefore, while the mask does reduce transmission of COVID-19, it is reducing something that's highly transmissible to something slightly less. As for with the cold and flu, it's already less transmissible. You're reducing it more, therefore the reduction is even more noticeable. But definitely mask does slow transmission. Whether or not we should enforce mask wearing, that's a whole other debate. But to say that mask doesn't slow transmission is to simply not understand the facts. I saw one video that said that even a single virus can get you infected, and since masks don't prevent all viruses from getting through, that they're pointless. Well, that's misunderstanding two things. One, a single virus is extremely unlikely to make you sick. You generally get sick when you have an invasion of multiple viruses, like think of a horde attacking a gate. A single person trying to attack a gate, they're not going to get over it. If you have a horde of many people trying to attack the gate, they are more likely to get over it, and then once they get over it, a whole bunch of them get in. And it's somewhat similar with viruses trying to get into your system. One virus is not likely, I can't say impossible, it is theoretically possible that a single virus will get into your system, start replicating, and get you sick with whatever that virus is. And the same thing for bacteria. But it is highly unlikely. The more you are exposed to a virus or a bacteria, the more likely it is for that virus or bacteria to actually overcome your initial defense systems and infect you. So if a mask reduces propagation, and it does so in two ways. For one, it reduces the number of viruses being expelled from your body with your breath, because the mask is going to capture some of them, not all of them, but some of them. It also reduces the rate at which the virus would be expelled from your body. So it tends to not go as far. So those are two desirable aspects of the mask slowing propagation. You'll note that the mask is more effective at stopping propagation from the infected person than it is at stopping infection towards the non-infected person. There's a couple of issues with the mask stopping propagation coming in. It does stop some viruses on the surface, which is good. So it is possible, so it will, reduce the number of viruses you inhale if you are in a space where there is virus in the air. But again, depending on how many are in the air, a percentage of those will get through. So it is possible that if there's a lot in the air, you'll still get enough through your mask to get infected. The other issue is that the mask that the virus that didn't get through, some of them are now on the outside of your mask. If you then touch your mask and scratch your eye or something, you're now taking that virus that was on the outside of your mask and bringing it in close contact to your eye. Not necessarily good. So if you were in an area that there was virus in the air, you would be better off to take your mask off carefully from the straps and throw it away, or wash it if it's a washable one. These are techniques that we know they are more effective. You should never wear the same mask in two different areas. Let's say that if you're going grocery store and then you're going to a different grocery store to get other stuff, in theory you should be wearing one mask for the first grocery store and a different mask for the second grocery store, so that you're not bringing any virus that may have been in the first grocery store into the second one. It just gets too difficult at some point. So yes, mask does reduce propagation of the virus, and yes, it would be good if people all took proper care and all wore an N95 properly, so that there was no air leaking out the sides, and wore a different mask every time they went into a different building. It's just not manageable. So that would give you the maximum reduction of spread, but it's just not manageable. So the idea that you should wear a mask, any mask, is better than nothing is true. The fact that people should, if they want to put a mandate, they should put the mandate for the best possible solution. No, it's not going to work. People aren't going to follow it. That's why they say mask mandates don't work, is because you can't get people to follow the extremes. If you're more lenient and say wear any mask, you have a higher percentage of people complying, and therefore total is still a better use of the mandate. So you're better to have 100% of people wearing a cloth mask than 10% of the people wearing N95 masks, for example. So if you can make the mandate so that you get the highest compliance, that is the target. Anyway, I hope that cleared up a little bit of the question of how statistics works. You have to be able to understand what they are saying. The COVID-19 vaccine is effective. The COVID-19 vaccine does reduce the likelihood of actually getting infected. It does reduce your time for which you are contagious if you do get the virus. It does reduce the likelihood that you would need hospitalization if you do get infected. It does reduce the likelihood of actually requiring intubation if you are hospitalized. It does reduce the likelihood of death from COVID-19 if you actually get that far. So, it reduces at every step of the way. It does reduce more at the extreme. So the reduction in death and severe illness is much higher. Numbers seem to indicate about you know, between 60 and 100 times less likely to have a severe outcome from a COVID infection if you have the vaccine than if you don't have the vaccine. But even just getting the virus, you're still reduced by a factor of roughly 7 to 1. So you're about 7 times less likely to get any infection whatsoever of COVID-19 if you have the vaccine than if you don't. 7 times less likely is a step in the right direction. If a lot of people get the COVID-19 vaccine and everybody is 7 times less likely to get infected, then you have less of the virus around, so the total reduction is more than 7 times. Each person is 7 times less likely to get infected if they are exposed, but you're also much less likely to be infected because everybody has the vaccine and therefore fewer people are carrying the virus around. So anyway, hopefully that helped a little bit. Thank you.